Now in this lesson, I want to take a look at other kinds of text we can format for the page. Not all text content will easily fit into just paragraphs and headings, and one example of that is a list. So let's open up the sample-list HTML file in our text editor and take a look. Here in this document we can see several types of content lists that you might need to display in your document. An ordered list can be for anything where there's a definite order of the items that you want to show. And an example of that would be a series of steps that need to be performed in order, or some items that have a ranking. An unordered list might be needed if your content just needs to be itemized but does not have any particular order, like a shopping list or a recipe. And the third type of list we may need is a definition list, which is a two-part list, and it might typically be needed if you have a list of terms you want to define. Of course, as you can see, we don't have any formatting tags included yet. So if I open this file up in the browser, in each case, our list items are all crowded together in one text block. So let's go back to the text editor and set our lists up. We'll start with the first ordered list. For our HTML tags, this will be the first time we need to use a couple of tags together in order to get the result we need. First, I want to set up the entire group as a list. So I'll add an OL tag, short for ordered list, up here at the start of the items. Of course, we'll need to close that tag down at the bottom. Next, to make sure each item can show up separately, we'll need to add an LI tag to each one, short for list item. And again, each LI tag needs to be closed after each item. Now let's save our change, and we'll go over to the browser and refresh our page. Now each item shows up separately on its own line, with a number included at the beginning. The list items are also indented a little bit to separate them visually from the rest of the text. Back in our document, we can set up the unordered list in a similar way. This time, I'll be using a UL tag, short for unordered list, instead of the OL tag we used before. Again, closing it at the bottom of our items. The list items need to be formatted as well, and for that, we'll use the same LI tag that we had for the ordered list. And again, putting a closing tag on each item as well. Now let's save our changes, and we'll go back over to our browser and refresh the page. And we can see that our unordered list items are now each on their own line. This time they have a simple bullet symbol in front denoting each item. Now with HTML, it's easy to combine the tags that we've learned together. For instance, if you had something more than just a couple of words inside of a list item, and you had 2 or 3 paragraphs instead, you would simply add the paragraphs right inside the list item. When it was rendered on the page, you'd still have a bullet in front of the list item, but your page content would contain several separated paragraphs, and then the next list item would appear with its own bullet item underneath. Also, with both of these tags, we can set them up for more complicated lists by nesting one list inside the first. To try this out, I'll add a few additional items to the second item in our ordered list. Notice I'm placing these inside the list item tag before the close. And I'll just add step A, B, and C. Now our nested list also needs to have an OL tag around the items. So I'll add a start OL tag here at the top, and a close at the end, again before the list item itself closes. And each one of the items in this list also need to have an LI tag. And as usual, closing tags as well. Now I haven't been indenting my code very much during the lesson so far, but here I'll go ahead and do it. I'll select this list and hit Tab to indent it from the first, And I'll even go ahead and select the list items and indent them as well, so we can clearly see that we have a list inside of one of our items of the other list. Now let's save our changes, and we'll go back over to the browser and see how this looks. I'll refresh the page, and you can see that our second list has been inserted right here at step 2, and it's also been indented again to show that it's part of step 2. It has its own numbering system, and the original numbering picks up after the second nested list is through, so we can see this is a complete list. Let's try this again with the ordered list. I'll just go back over to our code page. I'll select that entire list that we just made, copy it, and we'll paste it inside of list item 1 in the unordered list. Let's just save that change and go back over to our browser and refresh. Now we have a nested list inside of both of our list examples. You can also see that we can mix the two lists together freely, as we've done with the unordered list here. So we're not restricted to just one or the other. Now, when making your ordered lists, you may want to change the way the items are numbered. For instance, in this nested section, you might want to use ABC instead of 1, 2, 3. Well, we can make a change to this using the type attribute. So I'll go back over to the code. We'll go into our first nested list, and I'll just add a type attribute. Remember, attributes follow the name with a space, and we simply put in the name of the attribute. We add an equal sign, and then we put the value in quotes. Now in this case, I can use several options here. I could use a capital A, and that would indicate that I wanted capital letters, like ABC. But if I put in a lowercase a, our numbering would consist of only lowercase letters. We can also use Roman numerals. A capital I would give me large case Roman numerals, and a lowercase I would give me lowercase Roman numerals. For our example, I'm going to use a lowercase a, and of course I need to close the quotes for the value of my attribute. Let's save our change, and we'll go back out to the browser and see how that looks. Now you can see that my second nested list has A, B, and C in a lowercase as a numbering system instead of the 1, 2, 3. Now you can also change the bullets, but we do that using CSS, so I'll be showing you that in a later chapter. Now let's take a look at the last type of list we can use. The definition list is similar to the other two types, but in this case we will have 3 tags to use. The first tag will set up the list itself. So I'll first add in a set of DL tags around the items, short for definition list. And as usual, I need to close that tag at the end of the items. Next, we need to add tags for each one of the item types. And of course, in this case, we have 2 types of items, so we'll need 2 tags. Each one of our items has a term and a description. And for the term tags, we'll use a DT tag. And for the description items, we'll have a DD tag. So I'll need that pair on each of our items. And of course, all of these tags need closing. Now let's save our changes, and we'll see what this list looks like over in the browser. I'll just refresh the page, and again we can see in our definition list that each item is on its own line. There are no symbols or numbers associated with these lists, but for each group the description is indented underneath each term.